Well, first of all, I miss seeing you. I think I said this already, but I'm going to say it again. So tell me, where are you? First of all, let's start with that.
So I'm in Park City, Utah at the Olympic Training Center. And we're basically on top of a mountain in the middle of like, I guess the Olympic Village. Like we're pretty much halfway up where I'm staying. And so we're pretty high in general at the residence. And then you go higher up and you're at the bobsled track. So you're pretty much in the heart of where the Winter Olympics happened in Park City. So it's pretty
How
cool.
surreal is that? I mean, I'm sure you watch the Olympics a million times on your TV, but then to be a part of the village right now.
Yeah, it's incredible. And it's an incredible like atmosphere with the people and the coaches, and just being around like more amazing athletes that are all kind of going for this too. And none of us really knew what to expect coming into it. So it's just we're all in this together and kind of figuring it out as we go. But it's just an amazing experience to like be surrounded by the Olympics pretty much. So yeah, that's pretty cool.
Okay, well, let's start with how bobsledding even came to be a reality. I mean, did you grow up watching it, or how did you get into it and think, hey, I might have a shot at this?
Yeah, so a couple years ago, there was a show called The Next Olympic Hopeful, and it kind of took a bunch of athletes going into bobsled, skeleton, rugby, Olympic weightlifting, kind of the sports that get a little lack of attention. And just kind of they usually transform athletes that come from other sports. So I started watching that, and it was just a bunch of athletic people just pushing things fast, and I was like, that looks fun to me. So I started, is a little bit in the works then, but the combines, I would have to like fly out somewhere and attend the combine in person during the summer, and just with internships and everything, it never kind of worked out. And I've always said that I just want to give it a shot and never regret seeing what if. So this year when I went virtual, Carol sent me an email from Mike Dion, who's the head bobsled coach for Team USA. And I got in touch with him because he was reaching out to college coaches looking for athletes interested in trying this out. And because it went virtual this year, there was a lot more participation, which is pretty cool for the sport. Um, and so I just figured I'd go for it. It was a 40-yard dash, a broad jump. I had to do a little interview video and an athlete highlight video, and I had help with all that from Northwestern people, just from Tyler to Zach. Everyone else, they really helped me put it together, especially last minute too. I ended up submitting it the day it was due, and I mean, there were definitely moments leading up to it that I'm like, should I do this? And I was like, I committed to it. I'm just gonna do it and see what happens. I wasn't really expecting anything to happen, and then I got an invite to come out here. There were 4 camps that I could have chosen from. There was one for the last 2 weeks in Park City, and then there's 2 in Lake Placid, hopefully in January. It's all a little crazy with COVID, especially because New York and Utah are very different with the COVID guidelines. So when you go to New York, you have to quarantine for 2 weeks. So I got an invite, and this was a perfect time since we were going on Thanksgiving break pretty quickly. That this was an opportunity that I didn't want to pass up. So I got invited to come out here with a bunch of other amazing athletes. And so we're just going for it out here.
I love it. Well, I know you've mentioned Carol, Zach, Tyler, and Kate and everyone. What does it mean to be able to have, so many of Northwestern staff support really allowing you to do this right now?
Yeah, it's amazing. Originally, I didn't really want to make it a big deal, and still don't, but
You are a big deal.
just fix it. But I didn't want to make it a big deal, but everybody was just in my corner and like rooting for me and just helping me with whatever I needed. It's just really cool that the coaches and you guys and everyone else at Northwestern just allowed me to even do this, because it's definitely taking away time from the team. But I know I'm gonna be back with everyone in January, just getting after it again. But it's just an opportunity that was really cool, and I didn't want to pass up. And it's just amazing to have everyone in my corner and supporting me. Like the love I've gotten from people just from Northwestern and everywhere is pretty cool. Just supporting me in this.
For sure. Well, how would you say Northwestern softball and just competing at the highest level in college has prepared you for these Olympic trials?
Yeah, for sure. You're definitely getting a little more beat up here in the bobsled than on the softball field, but taking a pitch, you get bruised, and you get bruised in the bobsled. So
There you go.
it's a little similar in that aspect, but just the competition factor, just being around you guys every day in the weight room and on the field, that competitive aspect of us playing at such a high level and competing at such a high level is really transferred into how I'm doing here. I mean, my roommate played volleyball at BYU, so she's awesome, and we've had a lot of fun together. And just being around a few other athletes that played collegiately, we all know what it's been like to come from that background, and it's just it's an ego check a little bit because you're trying a new sport that you've never done before. So you just have to take those punches early. Like it's not going to be perfect. It's for years probably. So it's just something especially with softball, just being a game of failure, like that really helps coming into bobsled. You're not going to hit every curve perfect. And it just takes practice and repetition. So it's a similar thing for softball and any other collegiate sport, but that's definitely helped prepare me.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sure you've learned a ton about bobsledding over this past week. What has been the number one takeaway you'd say that you've learned?
That there's a lot more to it than I realized. I did when I signed up for this and tried out, and I didn't even know I was going to actually be driving the thing. So that was
It's
news for me.
driving.
Yeah. So I'm driving the bobsled. We're driving mono bobs. So that's a takeaway in itself, that I would actually have to steer down this track that's extremely steep.
Your driving
And
skills are going to be amazing when you come back to
I
Evanston.
really hope so. I really hope so. Yeah, so basically the steering mechanism is there's two ropes on the inside and it kind of sits in between your legs. And you're supposed to be like loose and relaxed, which is something that I need to work on a little bit. But it actually wasn't as hard. It's a lot like steering a car. I mean, it's obviously very hard, but it's a lot like steering a car as far as the steering mechanisms, and you don't have to give it as much as you think. So, but on top of that, it's just like the intricacies of the curves and knowing what types of curves to drive this way on and what types of curves to drive this way on. And it's a lot more memorization than I realized. And there's only, I think, 12 tracks in the whole world, for bobsled and skeleton. So 4 of them are in North America. There's one here in Park City, and then there's one in Lake Placid. So the American teams have the advantage of being able to train on 2 out of the 12, which is cool. Even 4 probably if they go to Canada. But the track itself, like every track is built so differently, and it has its own unique things. Here at Park City, we have 15 curves, and in Lake Placid, it's I think 20 curves. So, and they're all so different. So it's just learning. I mean, it's hard to even memorize this one, let alone being able to memorize like basically all of them that you'd have to go slide at. So it's a lot. There's a lot more to it than I realized.
That's fascinating.
Yeah.
It really is. So, what does your typical day look like right now there?
Yeah. So I get up around 7:30, and then we have to leave by about 8:20. Brian, one of the coaches, will drive us up to the top of the track. We call it the start house. So you have all your sleds and the inside. There's 4 bobsledders right now. There's 3 doing the monobob, and then there's 1 doing the 2-man. So we have 3 monobobs and 1 2-man that we have to take care of and move. So we get there around 8:30, and then we kind of do what we need to do with the sleds. They're very heavy. I think they're about 350 pounds. So it takes
Oh,
a
that's
team to move
nothing
these.
for you.
I thought so too, but moving it every day like that is getting tough. But no, so we get there around 8:30, mess with the sleds, do what we need to do, whether it's sanding the runners or taking the hoods off, flipping them to make sure everything's good to go. Because just little nuts and bolts, you just don't want to get loose. So you have to make sure everything's tight. Get ready. Then we go for our track walk almost every day. So we walk from the top of the track all the way down to the bottom, with our coach, Shauna, and she kind of talks through each and every curve, especially the first few days, talks through like every curve and every detail, just to get a feel for it. and you really don't know what's going on until you actually went down, but we figured it out eventually. And then as you get more comfortable, after we've gone down a few times, she kind of talks more about the ones we're like kind of messing up on a little bit more, and just focuses more on that. So similar to any other sport, you focus on your weaknesses. But so we'll do track walk, and then we'll finish up around 9:30, and we'll be at the finish of the track, and then we hang out there for a little bit, and then we'll go back up to the top of the track. Usually skeleton goes first, so they'll do all their runs and then we'll do all their runs. We have a couple hours on the track for our session, so skeleton's runs will take about 45 to an hour, and then we'll do our runs. So that whole time just kind of waiting, getting ready. Sometimes I hop on the bike to get my heart rate up a little bit before it gets up when I'm going down the mountain. So so I'll do that before I get sliding, and then it's just a mental game. So if I'm watching film or just running through the curves in my head before we get going, and then we'll finish up around noon, 1, depending on how long it takes to get our sleds back and how much we have to work on them or anything. And then I'll hit the weight room for an hour or two. And then we pretty much have the rest of our days to ourselves, but usually we'll watch track or we'll watch film around dinner time with Brian. So that's pretty much the day. Yeah.
It's a busy day.
Yeah.
It sounds like an enjoyable one, for sure.
For sure. Yeah.
But what are the next steps moving forward?
Yeah. So that's, so actually this past weekend in Lake Placid, they had the team trials for bobsled and skeleton. So that was who's going to make the 2021 national team for both men and women and bobsled and skeleton. So those happened and the teams are named. So this sport is also a process in itself, just because it takes years and years to learn. So like to be a good driver, I mean, there's people that are in their 30s, closer to their 40s, that are still driving. And those are like the best of the best in our sport. So it takes years to be good at this, and you're not going to be good in a year. The only thing is, so there's the driver and then there's the brakeman. So as a brakeman, you can usually make the Olympics in about a year and a half. So much quicker turnaround time. That's more just you're pushing and you're hopping back in the sled and you're just ducking the whole time and letting the driver do everything. So, and then the driver, it takes like 5 to 6 plus years to become a good driver. So it's a long process, but after this camp, we kind of go through evaluations. The coaches talk to you, and they want it to be both ends too that want it. They don't just want you to not like it and then they ask you to come back. So it's kind of both sided, and they'll just kind of talk through things, and they can invite you back to be like a development athlete for the U.S. national team. So I'm not sure, like, I don't know exactly how much goes into all this or how much training involved. I mean, I think it's all what you want to put into it. It's an expensive sport because it's not super funded. So a lot of the athletes kind of get their own sleds, fund themselves, and those sleds can cost a lot of money, like a car type money. So they're expensive, but yeah. And then other than the development team, you can kind of come back here whenever you want after you finish this camp, and you pay a small to medium fee to be able to like train and slide with, whether it's youth camps around here. There's a lot of like local clubs or anything else. You just may not have that coaching, but you can still definitely come back here and train. My roommate lives actually 30 minutes away from here, so that might be pretty easy for her.
Well, I know it's really early to kind of tell what you are thinking right now, but just what are you feeling? You know, do you have any goals moving forward with bobsledding? Can you see this as the next future for Rachel Lewis?
Yeah, we will see. It is a tough sport, and I have a lot of respect for the people that can do it. And I just think it takes years of practice. So it's definitely on the table for me to be able to do that. We'll see how it goes moving forward. It's tough, and it's tough on the body too, but it's definitely a challenge, and I love a challenge. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Well, if anyone can do it, it is definitely you. And you know, you have all of our support back here. Well, you are there right now, and we're so excited. And hopefully, we have another Olympic athlete in the making.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing with everyone. Everyone is so excited to follow your journey right now, and we can't wait to see where it takes you.
Of course. Thank you guys.